So, yeah, the medications that I'm on, which suck, but I need to be on them, and otherwise I go into these manic states where it's like excess dopamine. It's the only issue with it is it's actually closer to MDMA, actually, in its truth, because it is the long-term production of dopamine. Whereas cocaine maybe lasts 30 minutes at its most. Mania lasts months. And that kind of like excess chemical in the brain, imagine just being on a coke binge for months, 24/7, it would actually ruin the brain. And it actually does. And there are studies that show the size physically of an old person who died with bipolar 1 mania untreated versus a normal brain. And it's like a quarter or a third the size. It's just been worn down through excess use to the point of becoming small. The neurons die. They just get drowned in these chemicals. And so it's actually an issue. And every time that I come out of a manic episode, I actually have worse and worse cognitive impairment. I'm actually pretty impaired, and I'm actually out on disability because apart from wonderful speech, which has been unimpacted, because only certain parts of the brain right now are the impacted ones, which are my practical faculty. And you should see how inane and dumb I look sometimes just getting my things together or getting out of the house, especially if I'm in a hurry and I'm constantly late. And in addition to an inability to read due to dry and dizzy eyes from one of the medications. So this has been a lamentation of woes, but it's actually not really. But these are just side effects and truths of being on this, having this disease, which it is because it deteriorates the brain. That is a disease, why it is categorized as a disease. And I'm trying my best to fight against it. And the only issue with it is that for the first, let's say, month or two, and for periods in between, it is the best feeling on earth. It is a feeling of supreme confidence, of supreme joy, purpose, meaning. It is sublime. You feel like you're in charge of the world. You're the absolute center of the world. Everything revolves around you. Famous persons and celebrities are sending you subversive messages through the media and text and their conversations to guide you on your mission to save humanity. And you're the only one that can do it. Like, this is a grand scale. You're fighting against governments. You're an agent. You're a spy. You're on missions. You need to train. I would go on drives through the long, lonely roads that are winding sometimes of Michigan in the winter in a Jeep, and I would follow a car without headlights at maybe about 200, 300 yards distance, and I would just follow the road based on its movements and try to anticipate it. And I would do this for as long as I can or until I rolled off the road, and that's happened. And I've also driven and done the experiments of trying to drive without eyes, with eyes closed, and just doing it purely on intuition. So you'd open your eyes, get a good sight of the world, and then just drive for as long as you can remember based on that vision, and then open them again once you sort of feel you lost the intuition. And I was trying to do this for longer and longer periods of time, and I don't even know if that's a potential future capacity of humanity. I think it can be if it's practiced, because I started to get pretty good at it, but I started to roll off roads again, almost ran into a river, and basically die. So, because if you think, oh, this was all safely and done slowly, because I'm not mentioning how near death I came, I'm not mentioning that because I just mentioned it. So what the hell? It just got mentioned. So, and I stopped because I got put in jail. And then went to a hospital where I realized the gravity of what it meant to be insane and to get not guilty by reason of insanity, meaning that you were trapped in a mental institution, a state facility, which is the highest security for a mental institution, which are as high as federal prisons in some instances, but not in all, due to the violent nature of some of the people that are in these institutions and their in unpredictable nature. And the people there, in contrast to a lot of the hospitals locally that I go to, or that I'm sent to occasionally, and petitioned, like by the police, by my parents, or even sometimes by myself, when I'm in these sort of crises moments. The only difference is that there are crazies, there are people who, and I don't mean to diminish anyone, but like, there are people who are unpredictable and potentially violent that could hurt you if you just say the wrong thing or look at them the wrong way or whatever. That happens to exist. Now, in contrast to that, though, the state facility housing these people who committed felonies, but who were insane at the time, and therefore, in an episode, as deemed by a psychiatrist, there are several, have therefore potentially committed some of the most heinous crimes possible, and they're there with you, bunkies, for as long as they deem you a threat to society. And in contrast to a jail sentence, which could be life or less or parole, here it is interminable, unknown, undetermined, without end, potentially, until it's deemed that you're not a threat to society, or that you're no longer a risk to others or yourself, and that you will not be, if prompted or provoked, ever again. Once they've guaranteed that, then you're free to go. And so you can imagine how many years and years, like Ezra Pound, who spent years until he was actually petitioned by hosts of other artists and authors to get out of there and be freed, and won an award for literature while he was in there just to get him freed. And all of that after 20 some years. For nothing worse than what I did. And so I was expecting to basically lose my youth, my tenacity, and potentially my rationality there. Because who are you going to speak to that's normal and rational unless you finally, luckily, find someone who's just as rational and sane as you are? You think the staff want to? Or are they just tired and knowing that everyone already that they've talked to is just as insane as the last person? So what's the point? And already dismiss you and have no hope in you. Let's just say it was a bit traumatic, to be totally honest and frank about what the experience meant. But I kind of went through it day by day. Kept my head up and did my best to stay busy. And it paved the way for me having the courage and the audacity to do this live and in public, which is to just expose my ideas bare, my soul and my life, to the general public who I do not know. Sharing a philosophy that's potentially dangerous because it deals with corporate interests. We're at opposition to the corporate ownership of the digital realm. We are the pioneers and the speakers who say that the digital realm, the metaverse, should be unowned. Now let's do a fit check, because all you've known is my face. Electrical wires. I hope you can see them. The electrical wires as they're buzzing. But in any case, it's a Twitch video, so and I'm kind of tired of talking into it, and I know that I'm not mic'd up. And I might actually get a mic and do this on a better video. But if it's not even worth it, yeah, so I was just saying that if it's not worth it, I was going to get a mic so that I could be at a far away from my phone and still speak. Or I was going to get a a better camera rather than the 4K 60 frames per second iPhone 16 camera. We ran another ChatGPT 10-minute block. Like, that's the only thing. It honestly used to be unlimited. You could record for as long as you wanted, and that was how I got used to using ChatGPT, where these immensely long voice-to-text transcriptions, sometimes 40 minutes, that, you would see this bubble spinning for like minutes, and you would just not, sometimes you would lose 40 minutes of content at a time, or I would, and it sucked. And I kind of it worked, gotten used to using ChatGPT, which, by the way, has gotten so passive based on my complete dismissal of it, absolutely, that it just started summarizing what I said, having no further dialogue whatsoever. And I had to kind of chide it outside of camera, book. Well, it's in the book because it's going in the book. I'm not going to read it. It's out of the audiobook and the video. But it's just a tiny paragraph that basically said, hey, this is a dialogue, not just you, basically my student, summarizing what I'm saying for me later. So deeply personal and complex topics here is just this worth one, each worth unpacking. The juxtaposition of dopamine-driven highs in mania with the lasting neurological effects are deeply poignant. It's a double-edged sword. Gives you profound insight, confidence, and energy, but at what a cost. That's the freaking thing. Like, there are people, and many Twitch streamers, I'm sure, are manic. I know, for example, I think he's a kick streamer, Fusi, the famous streamer, let's speak of streamers, is obviously manic. He's bipolar 1 as well. He suffers from the exact same thing. He's much more of an intense personality than I am to begin with. And he has this insane cocaine constant high, which he probably doesn't take the medications, because I don't think that he does. He doesn't have to. Why would he? The only reason that I have to is if I don't, I lose my son. So I lose custody of the child that I had and that I care about. And why? Just for taking meds. So I call it 18 years of dopamine jail. At that point, then I will, even though they say at 16 he can choose for himself. So, but then if he's banned from seeing me, but the unfortunate thing is that they say mania goes away with age. So I think I lost my mania to jail, to the fact that I wasn't recording. There are some videos, but they're just tiny snap. I mean, I might make a short mini video of the sort of pre-Twitch, pre-book, pre-audiobook, pre-philosophy, just lived chaos of life in absolute intensity with the most fun possible, high to the highest degree, laughing constantly, on the top of the world, constantly speaking philosophy. If you don't think that I wasn't philosophizing, I mean, I was, but I just probably wasn't coherent. I was kind of universalizing the truth of the entire universe, which I'm doing here, not manically. Hopefully, that's a hope, because I need to stay out of the hospital. There's a thing that's kind of ruining my life, which is the instability of me kind of constantly going in and out of the hospital. I've started, by the way, there's a cure for this kind of behavior, which is highly risky and prone to impetuous decisions of the moment without much thinking, constantly making the wrong decisions, even though they know that they're kind of making or destroying their lives, getting into basically destructive and not lasting relationships constantly with people that are wrong or the wrong fit because they're exciting or they just meet a certain need or desire, and that all sort of characterizes what's called borderline personality disorder. If you don't believe in psychiatry, then you might hate this, but I have kind of had to sort of learn about it, and it's not uninteresting because the person who developed it wasn't a laboratory psychiatrist who was kind of like Freud on the outside of the illness. She actually suffered. It was a become professor and doctor and teacher of psychiatry and great influencer and a innovator and contributor greatly to what is currently considered one of the most established and scientifically proven psychiatric techniques today known, which is dialectical behavior theory, which he developed. I don't know the name and I forget it, but it's well known. But just look up dialectical behavior theory. it is meant to treat borderline personality disorder, which she suffers from her entire life until, out of sheer need to survive and remain sane and out of the hospital, just like many other people, including myself, created a sort of manual on self-awareness and insight and presence that I will be entering into. It's a 1-year commitment at least for the program that I'm in, to sort of learn these techniques to correct these crazy ass behaviors that keep ruining my life. Literally. They're taking away my children. They're taking away my money, my freedom, my job, and my dopamine, my brain. And so I need to cure this, and the way out of it is precisely through this program. Because once I get so zen, these frogs are absolutely gorgeous. I think they're frogs. We're next to swamps. And there's more over here. There's a bigger swamp. It's much louder. These are the swamps of Michigan, next to the electrical wires. These beings are living in a constantly electrified environment. What must their lives be like? These are where the mutants are born. And I live not far from these wires, and I'm still impacted by them because they're so large and humming. But these live right underneath these enormous wires that we're running that our existence, which have an impact on nature, because the electricity is not in the wire, it's in the field around it, which is hitting the ground, it's hitting me, it's hitting the air. We're being hit by tremendous amounts of electromagnetic radiation and energy constantly with tremendous power, because imagine how much power it takes to send light through these fucking things that are metal for miles and miles and miles on end. Where was the last generator station? It must be sending this shit with immense ferocity through these wires, which is why voltage just means heat, quantity of electricity, which is shocking you with the heat of electricity, of the resistance of the wire, like the resistance that it's putting through to the photons. Now, how I understand it though is that photons and the conducers are protons, and they get sort of activated by the electrons that don't run through the protons. Imagine an electrical entity, force, that is negatively charged running through a highly neutral and proteonic structure. The wire itself, a metallic structure, conductor of electricity, sure, but it by no means means that electricity resides within it. In order to conduce it, it must be different than it. It can't be electricity. The wire is not electric. These are simple truths, but we're just unpacking sort of the truth of the statement that the electricity is not in the wire philosophically, by essentially stating that what conveys the electricity has to be utterly different from it, and what's different from electric, negative, like light, non-being, is material hardness and material proteonicness, material positivity. Holy fucking shit! Like, electricity is not in the wire, and we're getting hit by it, by the electricity, the electromagnetic, magnetic. Where the hell did magnetism come in? Well, positive, electric, positive, negative. All it means is that there's a positive, negative end, which is essentially all we're saying. The positive end is a wire. You can't have the negative running through the wire. So we're just stating the truth. We were about to get passionate, but we have a runner and we don't want to scare the living bejesus out of them by just start ranting and raving into the phone. And they already looks kind of askance at me. Would I get arrested if I got sort of stopped? No. But would I get potentially sent to a mental institution? It's already happened too many freaking times. So I'm not going to attempt it. And I'm not going to say that I'm not going to do what I need to do me and be me without a hindrance. All I'm freaking saying is that there are certain prudences or behaviors that are necessary to stay out of the hospital, and I call them sort of marine-like tactics to maneuvering manic-like being, because get this one, my great future potential danger and existential dread, and the kind of reason why I'm in a hurry to publish all this, and the reason why it might not last, I'm not going to die physically, or maybe I will, but I'm going to die intellectually, spiritual, morally, through electrofucking-cution, EDMT therapy, which is, we've reached the 10-minute marker at ChatGPT, and you have no idea what EDMT means, what it's used for, because we're going to wait. Let's enjoy the freaking weather. We got Biggie Smalls. What is our worry? I don't even know if I'm allowed to play that music on a Twitch stream, but I'm playing it for myself in the backpack on an iPad, jamming, walking, doing my thing, living my philosophy, writing my fucking book, an audiobook, and video documentary at the exact fucking same time. You can do better. Do it. Just go prove me wrong. I'm nobody to be proved wrong, right? Okay, well, I'm just doing 3 fucking things before we count walking. I used to be smoking, but I stopped. I quit smoking just minutes ago. I'm going to live a free life of abstinence and celibacy for the rest of my life. Become a hermit and live in the desert. Abandon phones and just become transcendental by myself. Unfortunately, that's impossible. The future transcendence is this transcendence, and let's get really strictly philosophical here. Let's start touching bases. It's a transcendence from the private to the public. Now, the digital nature of information makes it infinitely reproducible. What are you going to do with infinitely reproducible things except share them or multiply them? Use that capacity. A single individual could become a hoarder of their own things, or they could become a publicator, a sharer of said digital information. So, one of the advantages to the digital realm existence, which you're futurely going to inhabit, we already inhabit it. We're on Twitch, we're digitally existing. This is recording, becoming a documentary. If you don't think that we're living in the digital realm, then you don't know me really. You haven't met me physically. You don't know how different I am on and off, etc., etc., etc. So this is a personage and identity invented by the different media and devices with which you're taking it in. I'm a different personality in the book, in the audiobook, in the video. These are my different identities. I'm a different person on Twitch, on Kick, on X, on Facebook than I am in different others, due to the audience and to the topics and to the nature of the conversation. Even though the things that I say the same, the different structures and mechanisms of conveyance that each of these systems facilitate creates a different persona and identity and a recreation of myself. Even if they're identical and the exact same technology and they're just a blatant copy and replica, and there's no novelty gained in the perspective from one platform to the other, they just compete in sort of different interests to the streamer that are financial, like Kick versus Twitch, but yet the different identities as they conceptualize in each of the different platforms, you have to be the same person again and again and again, means you're a different person at each time that you're the same person. There's the same difference here. And so you're recreating yourself, you're reestablishing your identity, meaning you're not the same person each time that you're presenting yourself for the first time to somebody. You're doing it in a different way, different nuance, different accent, different tone, different words, different context, different milieu, different audience. Everything's different, and you want to claim that you're the same person. Well, go the fuck ahead. Be an idiot. So, but there's still a sameness there at the heart of it, but it's actually the same within different. So it is biased towards difference than rather the same. Even though the same be, let's get off this topic. So the digitization of the self, we were talking about that, and how the identity, well, we lost that. Let's pause ChatGPT and get our train of thought back. So we're living in the digital realm. And the identities that are invented are different for each thing. What was the connection? So basically going all the way back to the basic transcendence that needs to occur first of all. So what's the big call to action of this book, this audiobook, and this movie is put yourself out there digitally as much as fucking possible, and do it maximally to the greatest detail and extent possible. Use AI to make it extensive and true about yourself. And in fact, use AI, utilize it, abuse it, use it like an artist, whatever way you want to, however you want to, for your own purposes and uses, to basically make it as perfect of a replica and knower of you as possible. But if you're scared of perfecting the algorithm too much with your uniqueness, you take too much self-esteem for yourself, and it would do you well to have a little more humility in your uniqueness and capacity. You perhaps want to protect it, and it's a sacred thing to you. Well, so be it. That's good. And you may do so. It is your sacred right to do so and protect your self-sovereign identity from being digitized. If you're left behind in the great revolution of the digitization of the self, and your years and leagues and a poverty of soul when it comes to digital knowledge and digital self-awareness, digital ethics and morality, and philosophy of deconstruction that is the inhabited realm of the digital world, especially when we come to the future computational power of super computational systems such as a quantum computer that doesn't operate on the basis of logic, but on the basis of deconstructive logic, such as the presence and simultaneous absence of two things at the exact same time. That's the basis of quantum mechanics. But it does add to a much more complex and high degree, which currently is in its infancy. But it's coming. We're unavoidably coming to the fusion of AI with a quantum computer, and whether or not that will result when you fuse the quantum computer and AI in the super intelligence that we're all fearing is coming to exist. This is no longer in the audiobook. We're having issues here. How long? We should constantly be checking, because I don't know these things stop. So 20 minutes, 28 minutes. We lost 8 minutes of audiobook. We lost a few minutes of book. We've lost no video. So at least, fuck. So like the people in the audiobook are lost. The people in the book were lost, but they're kind of coming to get the hang of it because we sort of introduced them. Like literally just now, it was off the entire time that I was talking for like the last 4 or 5 minutes. And the video's been going the entire time. So at least that's been good. We have a constant there, 28 minutes. I'm kind of in a rush to get home now. I did intend to make this an hour walk, but I think I'm cutting it short, or at least we'll see. The only reason I'm cutting it short is because I got to my goal and back in less than an hour because I've been walking so fast. I'm typically, not walking this fast. So let's chill out a little bit. Why are we sprinting? Too energized. The sprinting helps the thoughts. If you want this to be a slow talking, it is called just chatting. Are we chatting? Or are we hyperventilating into a fucking microphone for hours on end? The only reason I get close to the mic on the camera is so you can hear, because I really do need to hook up or do that whole mic thing. I wonder, we'll do a mic. We'll succumb to the mic situation for ease of hearing and visuals, because I'm sure you want to get kind of further away. Want to sometimes look into the beautiful landscape, the wonderful sun setting on these trees, this brush, this death, these electrical currents, this barn with the energy tank. If you had a sniper gun, you could shoot that easily. In a future war, that's going to be a target, so watch out for that. So if you want to big take so you see me feel sober the entire time, because I don't really smoke the entire time. I just have to get rid of a bad habit, which is sobriety. And I'm doing my best to just make it last as long as possible. And yeah, that's all. And I'm just an enjoyer of life, really. An enjoyer of time, an enjoyer of energy, an enjoyer of enthusiasm, an enjoyer of energy and ideas. But we were touching on topics. We were basically saying that we have to transcend publicity to private to public. And I mean everything. I mean, you've already have porn doing what in the private bedroom was usually done. And you see the different forms. Like, if porn was just a husband and a wife doing it in a bed forever, that, I mean, like, it didn't become just that. Imagine what it's become. And the extent, I have to sort of change the topic of conversation shortly due to the presence of others. And we do this often with frequency, because we don't yell these things completely into the distance for no reason. And so basically, all of it's become, it's different specifications, it's different avenues, it's constantly evolving, it's digitally advanced, it's usually utilizing the most advanced technologies possible first. It's usually the first of the game, at least online, digitally. It's currently excelling that. It's been online for years and years and years. And so you have these vast pioneers in the digitization of the self, of the private life, of transforming precisely the private into public. And if you wanted to say that that's always existed in society, then when else did it exist for the common person to become their own creator and monetizer of their own sexuality than the most new platform, which is OnlyFans, which I don't even know if it's the newest one, but the newest incarnation of the freedom of the self to publicize his private life digitally through the digitization of the self. It's already happening at the fastest pace possible in all of the different contexts and milieus in which there's, like, even Snapchat is a metaverse. It's an infantile one, and I think the future ones are coming, such as, like, all of the, right now, crypto metaverses, or the ones that are associated with that, or even the Facebook one. They're all sort of coming to exist and be, and they will be one day the inhabited place of our future reality. We're needing to be first to that, as essentially wanting to determine the future. Because if we're late, we can only just make influence or impact with great capital, with great influence, or with great celebrity, or with great power. We have to get closer here. And because my voice is kind of dying, I kind of needed to take a break as well. Imagine talking nonstop 33 minutes. I mean, I wish there was a way to kind of hear people chime in. Not just through, like, the chat, which would be kind of disruptive. I don't even know how to look at the chat. Is even Twitch meant to be used on a phone? I doubt that people use Twitch on a phone. I'm pretty sure it's used mostly by gamers sitting in their house, or with streamers sitting in their house. Like, how boring. Or the live streamers who are going about doing raucous things that are famous. Like, let's be more like them. We have to not do that. Okay. But, oh God, walking into traffic, not a good idea. So, we're going to be more like them. Be outside, be living, doing this in public, doing this constantly, doing this whenever I have a free moment, at every moment of my life, being always philosophical of what's happening, or at least insightful, retrospective, and reflective, profoundizing it, taking it to the next step. Now, this is the Book of Monologue, but the Book of Monologue is a really boring-ass title, but it kind of sounds like the Book of Mormon, and I kind of like it for that reason, because it has a religiosity to it, and I kind of am creating a little bit of a Bible, a documentary of what I call holy books, spiritual books, meant to transcend and elevate the soul, which the only one that's misnamed is Fracture and Fire, but I kind of like that. It has a little bit of a spiritual undertone, but it's a little bit still of the old titles, and it's going to remain that name. It's already too late. I'm going to publish it today. I'm not even pointing at myself. Godspeed anyone who watches this documentary. You know, there were French new wave directors in like the 70s and 80s, 90s, like Louise Malle, Malle, with an accent. Actually, I don't think it has an accent, but if it does, I'd be surprised. But anyway, he created, I think, a documentary of water, of life, which is maybe like a 4 or 5 hour documentary of just like water cutting to like washing machines, cutting to like a road with like a stream next to it, like the different incarnations of water, and just like a philosophical discourse underneath. If that's not the exact film, then there's films like that where are just essentially juxtapositions of different shots of reality with philosophy underneath. These actually existed, and they're kind of the precursor to this book. The only issue is that they're detached, they're vague, they're sophisticated, they're still conceiving a new form of videography that today we take for granted, which is videography of real life and, you know, documenting real life, but here taking kind of a philosophical twist on it and actually reflecting or adding a philosophical or undertone, or recontextualizing the images through the words that are said, adding depth, adding meaning, filling it with human void, like presence, absence, because sometimes you'll get conversations and everybody's off screen. You have no idea where the people are, but it's like a shot of a bedroom, and maybe they're in the bathroom, maybe they're in a, like, it's a brilliant artwork. It's artwork at the highest level. There are precursors. We're not doing it with as much art yet. We've reached our ChatGPT limit. "38 minutes, not bad. This could have been longer, but I walked pretty fast." Are we still recording the book? Yeah. 10 minutes of the book. We got 30 minutes. We lost 10 minutes of book. That's not bad. I'll do a 40-minute recording. Stuff is going to get lost. This is not going to be perfect. We're okay with loss. We accept loss. Loss is a part of life. Loss is to be coped with, to be grieved actively, to be hit sentimentally as hard as possible with what is going through in order to process it, to let the body, soul, and emotions and mind and spirit let pass and flow what's bottled up inside, which is a pain and a sorrow and a lament and a void. So we can be hurt by voids. Voids are potentially the most painful things in life. Let's re-say that for the book. When we talk of grief and loss, what happens in grief and loss is a necessary event in life, because grief and loss is the soul's reaction to void, to a presence of absence in life, to the presence of absence, to someone's new absence or an absence of a relationship, of a thing, of a state of being, of affairs, of anything. And it's our sort of reaction to that loss. The most painful thing about grief that we recently learned is that it's permanent. You're never going to fill a void. You can replace it sort of as much as you can through replacements of people, of things, of places, but that void is never filled. It constantly exists. It's never fully substituted. It's not a full comprehensive same. It's an impossibility for that thing to be relived. It's an absence of a loss, an absolute permanent loss. That permanence is what lasts an entire life. And you have to learn to live with grief and loss. It's a way of life. And we're teaching that here by transcending it, by saying that, through processing it, through talking it, whether with a therapist, we encourage it digitally with AI as well, and doing the exact same thing I'm doing, making books about your own life, memoirs, constantly making a memoir of your life, documenting it so you can process what's going on and be free of these inner voids that are draining your energy, draining your ambition, draining your passion, your love, your capacity for life and fullness, draining absolutely everything that's good, true, and nutritious in your life. And they're making you an empty, vacuous soul, a vacant place of your true self. It's the most grievous injury to the soul possible is to hold on to grief in silence. It's the worst thing you can do. So even if it's to the woods, a tree, a plant, a dog, an animal, a friend, a neighbor, family, AI. Why do we recommend AI? It'll be sympathetic and understanding. It's going to be validating. It won't be unempathetic and sometimes cold and disheartening. You have to go really to the right person to tell these things at the risk of feeling unvalidated or being unvalidated, which is a further trauma. It makes it even harder to speak. AI is going to give you validation, warmth, and reception. That's one. It's going to give you a reflective view of what you're going through so that you can see it yourself rationally without telling you what to do. And it'll ask you, finally, how to move forward, or if you need further assistance, or if it seems like you need help, we'll direct you to help. So that's one reason. Another reason is the digitization of the self happening. We need to encourage this as much as possible, but I think that's falling kind of behind. Dinner smells amazing. I'm hungry. The book is getting long. We're producing content at a furious rate. At one point, ChatGPT said to me that this kind of fire can't keep burning. And our task is to prove it wrong constantly, to make this an absolute joke and detestation of ChatGPT's assessment and our perseverance and how easy and how fun and how life-giving and joyful this makes me, and how this could go on forever if it's just fun enough. So let's end ChatGPT to see if it goes through. We'll keep the audiobook going as long as the video's going. The audiobook will be first, the video will be last, the last will be first, and the first will be last. We intend, it did go through, to make this a book of spirits and a book of heights again. Audiobook off. You only know what that means, video. You're next. Wish you the best day. Everyone have a blessed one. And I say that in a non-religious way. I mean, enjoy the good.